Hey, good morning everybody. Snackbox here, checking in from beautiful Grant Park in Atlanta, Georgia. If you haven't figured out yet, this is one of my favorite places in the whole city of Atlanta. It's just really beautiful. I'm just having a really great day. The sun is shining. Got my two house bears behind me here. Maybe I'll put a picture of my two girls up for you all. Their names are Katie and Tara. They're really special dogs. Well, we've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to be talking about segment 5 of the Colorado Trail. This goes from Long Gulch to Kenosha Pass. It is about a 14.5-mile segment. If you're on a through hike, this is going to be roughly mile 57 through mile 72. And it's a really good time to kind of check in and see how you're doing and how your gear's doing and how your food supply, all that stuff. We're going to talk about it here. Stay tuned. Let's get to it. Now, you mean to tell me you don't have a data book yet? Come on now. This is segment 5 of the Colorado Trail. As I mentioned before, it is about a 14.5-mile stretch. It goes up in elevation somewhere in the ballpark of 1,800 to 1,900 feet in climbing and somewhere in the ballpark of 2,000 to 2,100 feet in descent. That's actually a pretty gentle climb and descent sort of ratio for miles. We'll talk a little bit in later videos about the stretches where you need to know that you might have a mile that's going to take you an hour or so because it's so much climbing, and you may have some stretches where you need to be careful with your ankles and your knees because there's so much descent. You know what I'm talking about if you've done some of those later stretches. Let me show you a clip real quick of one of my least favorite stretches by way of descent, but one of my most favorite stretches by way of beauty. So if you see here in the video, notice how the bottom just kind of falls off and you have to climb down these major switchbacks. For those of you new to through hiking and hiking in general, a switchback, as you'll see in the video here, is just where the trail cuts back and forth, sort of zigzags, as you'll see in the video. And it's really a way that they help prevent erosion as trail makers, and it's also a way that they help save your knees and save your body as a hiker. When you're on the trail, you might not think that switchbacks are so great because it also means a lot of climbing or a lot of descent. Let's talk specifically about segment 5. This is a stretch, as I mentioned a little while ago, is not particularly challenging compared to the rest of the Colorado Trail by way of elevation gain or descent. So that's not necessarily what we need to think about. What makes segment 5 unique though, this is the first time in your through hike where you will cross a major paved highway. At this point, you'll cross Highway 285. A lot of people at the end of this segment will choose to hitch into Jefferson. And so that's really kind of the anchor point here, is we're thinking through the end of this segment and all the opportunities that this brings. Couple of things at the end of this segment. You're going to have a campground. If you want to stay at the campground, you need to go on recreation.gov and go ahead and reserve a spot there. And that's going to require a little bit of planning ahead. I don't necessarily recommend this. I don't think it's absolutely essential. I think it's better to keep going maybe a mile or two, and there's some great camp spots in segment 6. But if you decide that you want a little bit of a campsite, this is a good time to set one up. When you wake up, the day you are going to go through segment 5, or when you start in segment 5, here are my biggest tips because it all starts with that morning. The first thing is you want to pack as if you are going to stop somewhere on the trip, whether it be at the end of segment 5 at the Kenosha Pass campground, or perhaps you plan on hitching into Jefferson. What it means to pack for a stop means you're gonna take all your trash and collect it, make sure it's all together. So if you pass a trash can, you can easily get rid of it without having to dig and re-empty your backpack to throw all that trash away. It also means that if you're looking for a restroom break, you wanna save some toilet paper, set that out so that you don't have to go digging for your toilet paper later on. And when you wake up in the morning and you start packing up, you wanna really take a look at your food and other gear. Let's talk about the food first. For the food, if you're planning to go into Jefferson and resupply or pick up a resupply, now's a great time to go ham on all your snacks. Have a huge breakfast, eat everything you want. Do that before you start packing up your tent so your stomach has some time to settle before you take off on your hike for the day. The more food in your stomach, the less food hanging on your backpack and the better off you're going to be. Let's talk a little bit about gear, because at mile 71, for many people, this will be somewhere between 4 to 6 days in on your hike. This is a great time to look over all of your gear. Outside of the 10 essentials, I'll link to the 10 essentials in the bottom there, the 10 things every backpack should have in it. This is a great time to figure out the things that you don't need anymore. If at this point in your hike, you have something in your bag that's not on that list of 10 essentials and is still in your backpack and you haven't used yet, it's time to ditch it. So if you have a copy of a book you wanted to read, a Kindle, for instance, is really popular, a great big Bowie knife, a thermos, I've seen that on the trail before. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that you have it set aside, because in the town of Jefferson, there's a post office and it is a great opportunity to mail all that stuff home to yourself so you don't have to lug it up any more stinking mountains. If you set aside all of those things that you haven't used yet and you know you're not going to need, or at this point you've decided you're not going to use, it's a great time to go ahead and send that stuff home. That's basically it for segment 5. Again, it's not a lot about segment 5 specifically, other than the idea that at the end of segment 5 is that Kenosha Pass campground. It's a really special segment. When you get near the finish, you're going to start on this sort of 500-600 foot climb that's going to go over the course of about 2.5 miles or so. But once you hit the top of that climb, you're going to start descending down to the Kenosha Pass campground parking lot, and you're going to start seeing the town of Jefferson off to the left. You're going to get a view of the cars. It's going to be a pretty neat spot because you're going to start to really see and understand the distances you're covering. It's one of my favorites. It's a really encouraging section for a lot of people, especially because you start to feel like, you know what, I am a thru hiker. I can do this. Down at that end of the Kenosha Pass campground, if you are not a thru hiker and you want to get involved in the community, that's a great spot to set up and do a little bit of trail magic. This is where Caveman set up. I believe Caveman's one of my followers here now. Hey Caveman, it's great to see you. Caveman set up and did a bunch of trail magic. He was a trail angel for the hikers on the Colorado Trail. For those of you who don't know, a trail angel is a person who stops by certain crossings or junctions where they're going to see some thru hikers, and they do things like offer sodas or drinks, they pick up trash, any number of different things. If you pass a trail angel, be sure to take a drink, be sure to say thank you, obviously. Know that it's an essential part of the thru hike. I know a lot of people set out thinking that this is going to be some great independent solo adventure, and if that's your jam, go for it. The truth is though that the best part about thru hiking is the community you build, and trail angels are part of that community, and often they're part of that community because they're unable to hike and do the thru hikes that you're doing for some reason. So welcome them around the trail, be good to them, they'll be good to you, or they're already being good to you. So love those trail angels. Keep an eye out. There's a possible chance they're going to be down there at the Kenosha Pass campground. Can't promise anything. That's how angels work. Stay tuned with me. We're going to start talking about segment 6, the longest section of the entire Colorado Trail so far as I know. We've got a lot to talk about. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you've subscribed before February 1st of 2021, you will be entered in a drawing to win this sweet tent. This is a really nice little camel 3-person tent. Not really a thru hiking tent, but it's great for glamping and maybe doing some car camping and doing some vintage photography if you're into that sort of thing, which I think everybody kind of should be. That's it for me for now. Thank you all for sticking around. I've really enjoyed making these videos and seeing everybody who's been joining our community here at Outside Comfort Zone. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment box below, and I'll see you next segment. Thanks everybody. You know, if you wear your hat like this, then people think that maybe you're about to break a law. It shows a real disrespect for authority. If you wear the aviators, though, it gives people the impression that maybe you're a cop. So this can confuse people. So if you're gonna wear your hat backwards, you need to take this. Maybe get a pair of some like Ray-Ban style sunglasses or something. Side note, last tip, when you go to buy sunglasses for the trip, buy some cheap ones. They're gonna get messed up. They're gonna get broken. You're gonna lose them. Buy a quick pair of $10 to $20 sunglasses. Don't take your nice $200, $300 ton of shades.